Hello, it's me, Amy, and welcome to the Resistance Beanie 2026 tutorial. Let's get right to it. I don't want to waste a lot of time because I would like to get this tutorial and the written pattern out to the public as quickly as possible. So sorry if this video is a little wonky and just unedited and fun stuff like that, but I'm gonna walk you through how to basically make this hat that I designed. And some of you may be going, Amy, I know how to crochet, but I've never made letters on a hat before. Well, guess what? Neither had I. And it's actually pretty easy to do, but I kind of figured out how to do it for you so that you don't have to. But more on that in the notes. This is a pretty small beanie. You can modify this beanie in many different ways. You can just add more stitches if you want to make it bigger. You can change the colors. You can put a pom-pom. You can modify it quite a bit, but I'm using worsted weight yarn, which is a weight 4 yarn. I'm using a 5.5 hook, even though it calls for 5. I tend to stitch pretty tightly. So if you're kind of a tight crocheter, you might want to go a half or even a whole size up, because when you get to these are called waistcoat stitches. When you get to the waistcoat stitches, you do not want to be too tight or your letters might get a little wonky, okay? So I'm doing a 5.5 worsted weight yarn. You'll need all the good stuff that you need, like a scissors. You're gonna need a needle to weave in the ends at the end, and I like to use a stitch counter. Okay, and this is the design that I did for the lettering. It is basically, if you've ever done cross stitch, it's very similar to just doing a cross stitch. And we're gonna be working from the brim up to the top of the hat. So you'll be working from the bottom, right to left, up in rows, just like you normally would in rows. And it's 9 rows tall, and each letter is approximately 5 wide, okay? Or it is 5 wide. But we'll get to that when we get to that, and I'll explain it to you. It's pretty easy. The only special skill you need for this is to know how to change color, and I will go through that as well, but most of you probably already know how to do that. So let's get started with the brim. And the brim is this ribbed brim that we're gonna work this way first, okay? And then we're gonna turn it and work the rest of the hat this way up, okay? So let's start with the brim. Brim. And I'm gonna do this as a folded brim for you. Okay, so you're gonna start with your main color. That is gonna be all of this, the main body of the hat color. So we're going with Viking purple. And you know what? I just went with that because this is out of respect to the people of Minnesota, to honor them. I don't know jack shit about football, so don't come at me about the Vikings if you think they suck. I honestly, I don't know. They probably do suck, and that's fine. All right. So you're gonna start with chaining 19 stitches. And you don't wanna go too tight. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Now, if some of you are like, I'm just learning how to crochet, what the heck did you just do? If you don't know how to do a slip knot and a chain and stuff like that, if you're like beginner, go to the videos list on this channel, and I have tutorials on how to make your slip stitch, how to do a chain, how to do a single crochet, half double crochet. I have all the basics on there. You can learn those, but you need to know those to know how to make this. This is a beginner friendly hat, but you do have to have those basic skills. So this is going to be the height of your brim this way, see? And you're gonna build rows this way, okay? So now that you have chain 19, you're going to go in the 3rd chain from your hook, and you're gonna half double crochet all the way down to the end, okay? So here's 1, 2, 3. You're gonna half double crochet into that 3rd chain. So you're gonna yarn over and go in, and there you be. All right, now you're just gonna half double crochet all the way down your chain and that should leave you with 17 half double crochets. And like I said, nothing on this hat. Don't do anything super tight on this hat because you got to put it on your head, right? Now the size that I'm going to be making is kind of a women's-ish general size, like to fit around a 21, 22 inch circumference head. It is fairly stretchy depending on how loose you crochet, but if you have a giant head or you're making this for someone with a giant head, just add more rows. There's no real wrong or right to that except for how many you end up with at the end. And I'll show you that when we get there. So let's get just down to the end of this. Okay, so now we're at our last stitch. You're gonna go ahead and make your last one. Okay, so now you should have 17. So let's go ahead and just count, make sure we did it right. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. All right, so we have 17 stitches. So now for rows 2 all the way through. So now we can click, look, we just did our first row. Okay, so now rows 2 through 43, you're gonna just repeat the same thing over and over. So what you're gonna do is you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn your work, and now you're going to half double crochet into the back loop only, okay? And each row you're gonna make sure that you have 17. So when we talk about the back loop, when you look at the top of your stitch, you see the little V's, right? It's like a V, 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 V. This is called the front loop, and that's the back loop. You're gonna crochet into the back loop only, and that's gonna give you this nice ribbed look, okay? So half double crochet into each back loop. So you're gonna yarn over, go into the back loop, and then finish a normal half double. So again, yarn over, there's the stitch you would normally go into there, but you're gonna go into the center of it and into the back loop and all the way down to the end. Okay, meet you at the end. Okay, we're all the way to the end here of row 2. We just did our last half double crochet, right? So I'm gonna mark it, click, row 2. This is a clover stitch counter. It's called like a click-a-clack or something like that. It's great, I love it. Okay, so same thing. Now you're just gonna chain 2, 1, 2, turn your work. I always turn it like a book, like you're turning a book page that way. And do the same thing, half double crochet into the back loop only. So there's your stitch, there's the V, go into the center and work into the back loop. And same thing, just go all the way down to the end. Now, if you're not as experienced, you might wanna just, so you don't wanna kill yourself later, every once in a while check in and count and make sure that you have the full 17, because it's sometimes easy when you're beginning to forget to do that last one, and then all of a sudden you look at it and it's uneven. Just make sure that you're still doing 17, and you're gonna just continue this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back loop only, half double crochet, back loop only, chain 2, turn, until you get to row 43. Now, if you wanna make a bigger hat, keep going, do an odd number, do 45, do 53, do whatever you want, do an odd number of rows, keep track. You don't need a clicker thing, you can just make hash marks, that's what I used to do. And when you get to the end, I'll show you how you can count if you lost count, okay? So meet me at row 43 or whatever size you're gonna do if you're gonna do a bigger hat, and I'll show you how to measure to see if it's big enough. Okay, meet you back, bye. Okay, so we're back, and we are just about to finish row 43. of our brim, and it should be nice and long and stretchy like this. So here we are coming up to the last couple half double crochets, and go ahead and finish just like you normally would at the end. Now at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a circle, and then we're going to work the rest of the hat from the bottom up to the top. And you want, believe it or not, you want the inside, you want the correct side or the front side of this hat. So remember, you want your starting chain tail to the bottom left. You want it on the inside. We want the outside or the wrong side of the piece on the outside. Because remember, when you have this hat finished, you're gonna fold it up for a brim. So you want the correct side folding up, and this, you're gonna work around the outside of this. So from the hat part going up to the top is going to be also the correct side on the outside. I hope that makes sense. I've always found this to be a little bit confusing, okay? So I hope maybe that explained a lot of mystery for some people. But so now what we're going to do is we're going to chain one, and oops, sorry, we're gonna chain one, I'm gonna turn our work like normal. So now that you chained one and turned your work, your tail is gonna be here, and your starting loop is gonna be here. And here's a little, gets a little fiddly because you got a lot of strings hanging out here. But now you're gonna just join these together. And hopefully you have 17 stitches on each side so that you can do an even join. Now just go through that first stitch and then the corresponding stitch on the other side. You go ahead through all of it. And if you want to just weave your tail in now, you can. I like to leave mine out so I can do sort of a clean weave in later. And then you're going to pull through both sets of stitches and then slip stitch into that first chain one loop that you made. And then just do this all the way down. Okay, into the next. Go through both layers and slip stitch through that chain, through the next, through and slip stitch. So I'll show you one more time. Through and then through both sides and slip stitch. So do this all the way down to the end, and you can kind of check as you go to see, make sure it's lining up. You want to end up at the right place at the end, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, and now we are slip stitching into the very last stitch of your brim. And if you want to turn it this way, it should look like this. So when the hat's all together, you're barely even going to be able to tell where that seam is if you did it right. And if you did it wrong, well, fuck it. So it's not that big of a deal. If, you know, do your best. I believe in you. You're doing great. All right, so now we have the wrong side of the brim out, which is correct. And what we are gonna do is we're gonna chain one, okay? Chain one. And now we're just gonna work around our hat like this, clockwise, all right? So your starting chain tail will be on the bottom now. The wrong side of your work is going to be on the outside, so that seam you just made is right here. And now we are going to start to single crochet, just normal single crochets all the way around. And this also used to be confusing to me when I first started because it's not a normal edge, and you're like, where the heck am I putting in these stitches? There's no really right way to do it, as long as you do it evenly and it's a repeating pattern. You're basically going to do 3 per every 2 rows, or now they've become columns because they're standing up and down. So remember how each ridge was the divider of 2? So in between each ridge, you're gonna have 3. So if you evenly space them, you'll start to see the pattern of where the spaces are. The other thing too I'll say about this, I like to place them down lower where you have a couple of strands. I wouldn't put them toward the top where you only have 1 strand like that. It's just a little weak and is gonna leave your hat looking a little holier. So for instance, I might go here for 1, here for the 2nd, and then here for the 3rd, and then repeat that here. So here, here, and here. But I'll just show you. We're gonna do single crochets. Also, you might want a stitch marker at this point. I like to have a stitch marker because I'm always paranoid I'm gonna lose my place. So for instance, for the first stitch, I'm gonna go into here. And just normal single crochet, and I'm going to mark that because at the end of this round, we are going to slip stitch into it. And it can be a little confusing, which was the chain 1, which was the single crochet. So now I'm gonna go here, kind of in the middle of this ridge, and go into here. And then I'm gonna go over here and do a single crochet here. So there you have 3 in a row. Actually, you know, I don't like that because look at that big hole. Forget it. Pretend I didn't do that. I'm gonna go here. Yeah, well, no, maybe I will go there. I mean, it's wherever you feel comfortable with. I think that'll be fine. It looks a little holy to me though. Yeah, I'm gonna redo that, sorry. Okay, so we have 1 where the stitch marker is. If we go 2 and then 3, 2. Like I said, it really doesn't matter where you put them, as long as they're just kind of evenly spaced. Okay, I like that better, I think. And then you're at your next ridge. So I'm gonna put the next one right into this top of the ridge. 1, 2, 3. And you'll start to see the pattern of where you're going. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1. And just do this pattern of 3 across between each ridge until you get to your stitch marker. You're gonna go all the way around. So it should be looking like this at this point. Just show you one more time. So here's a column ridge. I'm gonna do 1 right in the top. Here, kind of in the middle of the 2 ridges, and then 1 over here before the next ridge. So that's 3 in a row, and then I'll start again here at the top of this column for 1. As long as you do 3 in between each ridge, okay? Honestly, I swear to God, it really doesn't matter. Just go around until you get to the stitch marker. I'll meet you there, and then I'll show you what else we're gonna do. Okay, so we just have a couple more. Okay, so that's my last one. I'm gonna count and see what I have. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8, 5, 2, 4, 6, 8, 60, 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at that, I did it. 64, that's what I wanted. So that's how many I have, because I started with 43 rows of the brim. So I ended up with 64 single crochets, and it looks like there's a bit of a gap here, but that's because we're gonna slip stitch to this and that will close it up. So we marked our first single crochet, and now we are going to slip stitch into that. So just the normal single crochet, not the chain one, but the single crochet, the first one you did, and you're gonna slip stitch. Yay, okay, and that was row 1. I restarted my marker for the hat body. So that was row 1 we just did. So now, with your same main color, you're going to chain 2, and now we're gonna half double crochet around. And I want you to put one into that starting join stitch right there. So you're gonna have your chain 1, and then you're gonna place one right next to it in here. So half double crochet, and then I'm gonna mark that. What did I do? There's a stitch marker. I'm gonna mark that first half double crochet, not to be confused with the chain, because we're gonna slip stitch into that when we get all the way around. And now you're just gonna do normal row. This is row 2 that you're doing of the hat body, of half double crochet all the way around into the singles that you just did below there. Okay, so I'll meet you around at the stitch marker. Okay, we've half double crocheted all the way around, and we've gotten back to our stitch marker to the first chain and half double. So you worked all the way up to this last part, and now you're going to slip stitch into the top of that half double crochet at the beginning of your row. Just do a slip. And now you just finished row 2. And we're gonna go on to row 3, which is very similar, except for this time, go ahead and do your chain 2, 1, 2. Instead of crocheting into that first join stitch, we're gonna skip that one and go here. Don't ask me why, just do it. No, honestly, the reason is because, and then go ahead and mark that, the top of your first half double. And now you're gonna go all the way around, and when you get to your final stitch, which is going to be here, you're gonna put 2 in there so that you still have the same number of stitches. So we're at the last stitch for this row, and remember we're gonna put 2 into this final. I know I used to get confused over whether this was a stitch or not, but that's just where you did your slip stitch. Confusing. This is the final stitch right here, okay? And remember we skipped the join stitch at the beginning, so we're going to put 2 into this final stitch, into that same spot. You're gonna have 2 half double crochet. Okay, and that for me is 64 total in this row. Now, okay, so that was row 3. So row 4, actually, I just lied. We're gonna color switch for the first time.